The next thing I thought we could touch on briefly is, let's write that up again, 4x squared, let's go with that. The idea of being able to immediately inspect something versus the idea of a systematic scan. So here, this expression is simple enough to very quickly see that the highest power in the unknown is 2. Whereas if we instead wrote something like something like that, it's a little trickier. I've got to look through more terms, and I almost have to do it systematically, if um, particularly if this is still very new to me, especially so if I do start, if we're not talking about quadratics, but cubics and quadics, higher powers, so we've got to search, we've got a sort of broader range within which to search, but and then even more so if we start putting the equal sign in and more terms on the right hand side. There's just two different types of cognitive activity here. One where I can very quickly and cleanly see the surface details and spot very quickly what matters, and one where I necessarily have to do some sort of scan of each term one by one, and then also retain and work in memory what is the highest I've seen so far. Um, the examples that I used earlier are really intended to hone in on the idea that you can just inspect it very quickly. So it allows us to move through the thing that matters. And so many examples, just identifying the thing that matters very quickly is the highest power, 2 or not. But once we move past the very initial instruction and very initial testing, possibly as part of an expansion sequence, these things can balloon to much bigger sizes. The assumption now is that all of my students know what the salient feature is. They know what it means for the highest power to be a 2. They know that it's being 2 as the highest power in the unknown. That's what matters. I can now make these things particularly long, where they will have to search one after the other in order to identify it. And it's just giving them practice of a slightly different kind of cognitive work, one where they're less relying on that sort of system one thinking where they immediately see the thing that matters, and one where they have to inspect line by line, including in that something like, so we have that, and then we have this here, including something like this power on a constant as part of an expression where they're having to perform a slightly slower cognitive process where systematic search is unavoidable, um, might be a good way to increase the odds that they realize that this is still quadratic, because they realize this is not they're more likely to realize that this is not a term with an unknown in it. Not guaranteed, but it increases the odds a little bit.